to St. Peter's Church. So this is a modern construction, but underneath we have the house of the Apostle Peter. This would have been the First Vatican. We know from the Gospel accounts, and we have the ruins of an ancient Byzantine church on the site. We know from the Gospel accounts that Jesus did a large part of his ministry here. This is where the paralytic was healed when he was let down. And I'd also point out that this shows that Peter was, even at the very beginning, a central figure of Jesus' ministry. So we as traditional Catholics believe in the papacy. Peter may have screwed up. Quite a few times. But Matthew 16:18-19, you are Peter, and upon this rock I'll build my church. The gates of hell will not prevail against it. To you I'll give the keys, the kingdom of heaven. What you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, what you loose on earth shall be loosed also in heaven. That is something that Christ said. Now, there's a lot of attempts to get out of this by saying, oh, Jesus referring to Peter's faith. Jesus didn't say, Peter, your faith is like a rock. We know from the Sea of Galilee, which is over that way, that Peter sunk like a rock. That was the one thing his faith was like, is that it sank. But Jesus was referring to not Peter's faith, but Peter himself in the Gospels. And we know this from Matthew 16:18-19. You are Peter, upon this rock build my church, the gates will not prevail against it. He will give the keys, the kingdom of heaven. Giving him the keys, referring to giving of a bestowal of authority. So you can see the old church and structure, time of Jesus. Right here is where they would have let the paralytic down. We also know from the Gospel of Luke, where Jesus singles out, after a discussion about who's the chief apostle, Jesus first clarifies to them what that means, strengthen your brethren. Then he singles out Peter. Now, Peter screwed up. We don't follow Peter into sin. Think about the apostle Paul, who had to call Peter out in the book of Galatians. But let's also not forget about But let's also forget that Peter, even though he had to be corrected and called out, still wrote infallible scripture, like 1st, 2nd Peter, quite literally. So even if you're Protestant, you still have to recognize Peter, at least Peter, as a pope who was infallible, yet still sinned and had to be disobeyed sometimes.